In life, there's two types of men: the 99%, the average Joe. This average Joe, he's gonna just be living his life however he wants. Then he's gonna start dating someone, and that's when he's gonna want to earn trust. He's gonna want to be trustworthy only once he starts dating someone. But then you have the 1%, the good man. That's a man who might be single, but in his singleness, he's trying to build trustworthy habits. And through his habits, a good woman will come along, through her discernment, will recognize all the good habits that make him to be trustworthy. And through his habits, she'll find trustworthiness and thus have a more healthy relationship. Because most men try to build after they like someone. You want to be better just because you've met someone. But the truth is, the strongest men build trust and generally a good lifestyle, not as an event through meeting someone, but just as a routine in their life. And that will lead to better women, because a good quality woman will want someone who's already got a good life built together, not someone who's all of a sudden ready to change. Nonetheless, it's hard to change. How do you drop addictions? How do you build up a new life all of a sudden just because you've met someone? Trust is not something you perform for a woman, but it's someone you become. Howdy, my name is Nolan the Painter. I'm an aspiring young man with aspirations greater than anyone will ever understand. And in today's video, I want to talk about how to become a man she can trust, your future woman, before you even meet her. Because she's out there right now, and she wants you to be trustworthy. Trust is actually a huge thing women like. Women spend more energy than you're willing to realize or appreciate on safety. So that's emotional and physical safety. But safety comes through trust. So does she trust you to come out to you and talk to you? And trust isn't something you have to go and explain them to them. Maybe to a man, you have to use your examples to prove that you're trustworthy. But if you do that to a woman, you'll push her away. So if you want to have a good relationship with a woman, you need to be someone who's naturally trustworthy in the first place. And that comes from good habits. Take this for an example. If you are in an office environment, a man comes up to you with a complaint, and you provide with him examples on how you're able to solve that complaint and resolve the issue, that'll make sense. But if you go to the average chick and you say similar things and try to make it about how you can solve the problem, oftentimes she won't appreciate it, because instead of just solving the problem by being the solution, you're talking about how you can solve the problem. You're talking about how you're perfect when she came to you already expecting you to be worthy of solving the solution. So don't try to achieve trustworthiness once you're in a relationship. Seek the solution before even talking to a woman. Become someone who's trustworthy even before that. And in this first section of the video, trust starts long before the relationship. Trust starts before you've even met this woman who's waiting for you, or this woman who you've yet to meet but you so much desire. A man's daily habits build his trust, and they reveal the truth about him. So his discipline, his loyalty, his stability. If you go to parties, you probably aren't a very loyal man. If you are a shaky man who constantly explodes, you probably don't have good emotional stability. And if you all of a sudden just stop working hard, you have bad you have bad discipline. So his habits reveal how good of a man he is. And a good woman who has discernment will be able to discern whether you are a good man or not based on your habits. So you sure as hell better have the right habits, and you sure as hell better be working hard even when you're single. Because how are you supposed to build these habits all of a sudden once you start dating someone? How are you supposed to stop lusting and all of a sudden be this perfect man of love all of a sudden that you start dating someone? You can't do that. That's hard. So you have to work hard even before this. That's why there's the famous mantra, become a good man before meeting a good woman. You have to be a good man first. It's just impossible to change overnight for someone. You shouldn't, nonetheless. So change to be a good man before you even reach that point. You don't magically turn into a trustworthy man regardless, when a good woman does arrive for you. You reveal who you are. That's why I believe when you start dating a good woman's not going to fix you, a good woman's not going to solve your problems, and a good woman certainly is not going to do the work for you. But what she will do is she will expose all of your faults. I dated an incredibly good woman, and she didn't make me a better man, but she exposed all my flaws, and it gave me the responsibility of wanting to become a better man. And so I'm doing all the things that she taught me to become a better man, because she was good enough to the point that she exposed all of my flaws. And now I'm trying to build my man in my moment of singleness to become, a better man. I'm trying to build myself to become a better man while I'm single. That way, when I do return and I do rebuild this relationship, I'm not scrambling together to try and build trustworthiness. I'll just be naturally trustworthy through the habits that I've created. You wouldn't trust, a crack addict because his habits reflect crack abuse, but you probably would, trust a millionaire because his habits will reflect one of success, especially with your funds. So it's the same with relationships. A woman can feel the difference between a man who's maintaining standards versus a man who's scrambling to look trustworthy. And of course, you need a lot of loyalty before you begin to love. Loyalty isn't just about people, but it begins with the loyalty to your own values. It begins with how much you're willing to work on yourself. Why would a woman want a man who's not loyal to himself? And how could a woman in her heart trust a man to be loyal for her if she can't even be loyal to his basic ideals? So you might as well be loyal to yourself. You might as well have some self-respect. So cut off your lust. Quit only for the girls. You quit OnlyFans. Quit this nonsense. Stop indulging in such things that pull you away from loyalty, right? You got to avoid meaningless attention, and that will train your loyalty. Because if you're not getting attention from millions of people as a porn star, and likewise as a man, if you're not giving attention to millions of porn stars because you're lusting, then you're going to look for attention from your partner. And that is better, not to say that you have a dependency on your partner for attention, but to say that you're no longer filling your void with meaningless validation, but you're filling it with genuine love. And that love will be reflective of your loyalty to them. Because if your partner is making you feel whole in life, then what desire would you have to go cheat on them or hurt them? And this is a genuine fear for a woman. Women do fear for a man who will cheat on her. It's a big worry they have. Believe me, I understand. So you got to be loyal to the point that you don't have a desire for such things. And a good woman through your habits will recognize that within you. But that's only built through your habits. It's only built through who you are as a man. So if you're a crappy man who's willing to cheat, you can't just change overnight as soon as you're in a relationship. If you sleep around with a bunch of chicks, you can't just change overnight and all of a sudden be a man who's dedicated. You biologically don't work like that. It's impossible. You will fail no matter how hard you try. So you might as well start the work now, especially when you're single. Because a man who betrays himself has already betrayed her future. And building loyalty early makes you emotionally safe before she ever enters your life. So of course you need self-respect, because self-respect creates her respect. Because your self-respect shows what you can tolerate. It shows your friendships, it shows your environments, it shows your habits, it shows your addictions. And it makes you a man who respects his mind and body. And a man who respects his mind and his body is predictable. He's stable, he's trustworthy. And women crave those things. They want a man who's predictable. You don't have to be this man who's unpredictable. You need to be a man who's consistent, and a man who's careful, a man who's stable, a man who's trustworthy, who does the right things. But that's built through your habits, that's shown through who you are. She will never trust a man who can't protect himself from the world, because how could a man who can't protect himself protect her? And you need standards. You need a backbone. You need a spine. A good woman wants a man with boundaries, not like a yes man, right? And what I mean by this is there's a difference between a good man and a nice man. The nice guy is just going to go around and fold because he's going to do whatever everyone wants. But people don't always want what's best for the relationship. People want to watch porn. People want to watch YouTube all day. People want to eat junk food. But is that good for them? No. So likewise in a relationship, people will want things that worsen the relationship. So you need to have boundaries. But importantly, you need boundaries from the bad things, not good things. If you want to move to a certain point in your relationship, like a sexual intimacy part or a special conversation with your partner, it's not necessarily boundaries to say no to that. However, it's a healthy goal to set. You don't say, no, I don't ever want that. You say, I'm not ready for that, but I want this in the future. That way, you're setting yourself up for success rather than denying something that can be good now. Of course, you need to prevent yourself from doing the wrong things at the wrong times, so you set yourself up for a better opportunity in the future. Of course, where do the boundaries come in? Because of course I've mentioned goals, but what about the boundaries? Well, boundaries come from the bad things. So if you're falling into lust, you wall yourself in against lust. You set boundaries against everything behind you, all the lust, all the pain, all the bad habits. You set boundaries against that. And you set gates, you set goals to achieve in the future with your partner. Because if you make boundaries all around yourself, which is a mistake oftentimes women make, they cut themselves off from everything good and bad. You leave yourself in a situation where it's impossible to do good. Why? Well, because naturally as a human being, if you want to work hard, well, hard work is hard, right? Easy work is easy. Falling into temptation is easy. And when you make boundaries against yourself, equal boundaries, equal weights against everything, it's more likely than not that all the walls behind you to lust, to temptation, to gluttony, that will crumble before the bricks in front of you even start to shake. because it's way easier to fall back on bad habits than it is to push forward to new good ones. So make goals, set gates that are wide open for the things you want to do with your partner and the achievements you want to make at healthy points, and make boundaries against the bad things in life, right? And that is built from your standards, and your standards show reliability. You're not going to flirt with random people because you have boundaries from the bad things. You're not going to have emotional cheating. You're not going to do the wrong things. You're not going to think the wrong things. You're going to be good. You're not going to have lustful habits. You're going to commit to purpose. And if scary things arise, when things happen that you're not ready for, you'll be setting the goals to achieve them in the future. And a man is trusted when people can guess what he will do because he is consistent. I can promise you all my friends have a good idea of where I'm going to end up and a good idea of what I'm going to do for the day because I'm consistent. And that is what women look for. They want a consistent man who's just open and healthy. They want trust, and trust comes from patterns, not just promises. However, given your patterns, given you're a good man, given you're consistent, your promises now have weight because they know for a fact whatever you promise will come to fruition. I can say for a fact, if I promise this person I will do something, they can say with confidence, he will do that thing because look at the consistency that I brought to the relationship, in that relationship that is. Look at the consistency that I brought to the relationship. So there's a guarantee that comes with my promises. But how can you promise anything if there's no consistency to prove such a thing? So of course, you need to be safe without being soft, right? Emotional safety comes for her from your stability, not your niceness. So you can't be the nice guy who's going to fold when someone asks him, right? When a girl comes up to him and says, hey, your girlfriend doesn't have to know this, but we can cheat. You can't be like, oh, okay, it's okay. No, you have to say, no, I'm standing up for myself. I'm a spine, and I'm stiff, right? You need to stand up for yourself. A girl wants a man who's going to say with confidence, no, right? She wants a man who will do what's right, what's in truth. She wants a man who will not crumble. She wants a man who will make the right decisions, even if it hurts sometimes, to build a relationship. She wants sacrifice. She wants commitment, because that's what's necessary to be a good man. And she wants a good man. So you might as well be practicing such things before even being in a relationship. And a trustworthy man is grounded. He's grounded in truth. I always like to use the analogy of being a pole rooted into the center of the earth and you're sticking out the top of the ocean. You're going to be hit by waves. You're going to be hit by storms, struck by lightning, hit by rain. But it doesn't matter how many times you're hit, you're grounded. And importantly, you're grounded in truth, not logic, because logic can be skewed. Logic can be conveyed in different ways. It can be biased. But truth is consistent. And truth is that you're not leading in your emotion. When you're happy or eager, you're not going to say the wrong things. When you're sad and upset, you're not going to say the wrong things. And women want a man who's leading in truth. Even if it hurts, even if it is odd at sometimes, but it's consistent. Even though it might not always be the perfect answer, there will be an answer. There's never an uncertainty to the matter, right? You're calm under stress. You're slow to anger. You're stable in your decisions. You got to be a man who stays composed during whatever fears she might have. Because a woman can be afraid as much as she wants, but a good man will always bring her back to the grounded truth. And a woman desire deeply a man who, no matter how afraid she might get, or no matter how emotionally uncontrolled she might be, will make her feel safe. Because what good are you as a man? And what good do you bring to a relationship if you can't bring emotional stability? If you can't calm her storms? Or if you can't become a foundation that she can rely on? What good do you bring to a relationship? And those are things you have to build before even entering a relationship. There are lessons you need to learn before acquiring such a thing. But that's hard and it takes a long time. But it's necessary because a woman will enter your life and will be so appreciative. Would you as a man not appreciate a woman who is and building your life to be a mother, right? That's the extreme of it, right? You building your life to be a father, you building your life to be a mother if you're a woman, right? Those are the extremes of it. And would you as a man, would you not appreciate a woman who's building her life to be a mother? Would you not appreciate a woman who's building her life to be a good woman for her partner, right? You would want a woman who's been working hard to be a good partner. So would a woman not want a man who's working hard to be a partner? And those are things you need to do while you're single, because you don't change overnight, you change over years. So if you're single for years, you might as well be doing it when you're single. And safety, all the safety, because women crave safety. Safety is the deepest form of masculine love. If your woman doesn't feel safe next to you, you are not a good man. You need her to feel safe, emotionally and physically. Oh, and especially spiritually. You need to lead your woman to spiritual success too. And of course, finally, there's invisible preparation. Never what she sees, but always what she feels, right? Your future partner, this woman that you want to be with one day, She will feel the effects of your current habits even though she isn't present. She will feel the way you act. She will feel the way you are preparing yourself. She will feel that you've been training disciplined, right? She'll see that you're strong and she'll sense, okay, you've been training for a long time. She'll see that you're loyal before she's even arrived because she will see you're not at parties, right? You'll say, oh, I've never been to parties, and she'll feel that through your actions, which is hard to understand as men. How can you understand that? Men only visualize things. We sense things because we're told them, but women feel things, right? When a woman comes to you and tells you something, she doesn't need you to prove that you're adequate for the information because she already feels like you're adequate for understanding it, because they just work differently. Right? Woman will feel that you've built emotional self-control. She'll feel that you've understood like what leadership is, and you've understood what patience is. She'll just sense that. She'll feel it naturally, and she'll have confidence. You need her to feel safe because that safety will guide her direction, and you need her to be trustworthy, and she needs you to be trustworthy because trustworthiness builds healthy relationships. So you might as well be practicing trust and being a good man even before being in a relationship, because a man becomes trustworthy before anyone even calls him a boyfriend, right? So overall though, trustworthy men don't get lucky in relationships because they arrive prepared. And when a good woman shows up in those relationships, a good woman that you desire, dear viewer, right, she will step into a life that is already built for loyalty, stability, and truth, most importantly. So become the man whose habits earn her trust. Become a man whose habits build trust without ever having to ask for it. Because that's the greatest privilege of a man, not working hard for something good, but working hard and seeing the fruits of your labor are good. Right? Because a trustworthy man isn't searching for validation. He's building a life worth being trusted with. My name is Nolan T. Painter. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something, and I will see you tomorrow.